2 Kings chapter 15. In the 27th year of Jeroboam king of Israel, Azariah son of Amashiah king of Judah became a king. He was 16 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 52 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Yekoliah of Jerusalem. Now he did what was right in Adonai's eyes, just like all his fathers Amashiah had done. However, the high places were not taken away. The people were still sacrificing and burning incense on the high places. Then Adonai struck the king, so that he had Sa'arat until the day of his death, and lived in an isolated house. Meanwhile, Yotam, the king's son, was in charge of the palace and governing the people of the land. Now the rest of the acts of Azariah and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of Kings of Judah? Then Azariah slept with his fathers, and they buried him with his fathers in the city of David. Then his son Yotam became king in his place. In the 38th year of King Azariah of Judah, Zechariah son of Jeroboam reigned over Israel in Samaria for 6 months. But he did what was evil in Adonai's eyes, as his fathers had done. He did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, which he caused Israel to commit. Then Shallum, son of Jabesh, conspired against him and smote him before the people, killed him, and became king in his place. Now the rest of the acts of Zechariah, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel. This was the word of Adonai that he spoke to Jehu, saying, Your descendants to the 4th generation will sit on the throne of Israel. And so it came to pass. Shallum, son of Jabesh, began to reign in the 39th year of King Uzziah of Judah, and he reigned for 1 month in Samaria. Then Menahem, son of Gadi, marched up from Tirzah, reached Samaria, then struck down Shallum, son of Jabesh, in Samaria, killed him, and became king in his place. Now the rest of the acts of Shallum, including his conspiracy that he contrived, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel. Then Menahem struck down Tibsah and all who were in it, and its territories from Tirzah, because they did not open to him. Therefore he attacked it and ripped open all its pregnant women. In the 39th year of King Azariah of Judah, Menahem, son of Gadi, became king over Israel, and he reigned 10 years in Samaria. But he did what was evil in Adonai's eyes. Throughout his days he never turned away from the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, which he caused Israel to commit. Then King Pul of Assyria invaded the country. So Menahem gave Pul 1,000 talents of silver, so that his hand might be with him to strengthen his hold on the kingdom. Menahem exacted the money from Israel, from every person of means, each one 50 shekels of silver, to give to the king of Assyria. So the king of Assyria turned back and stayed no longer in the land. Now the rest of the acts of Menahem and all that he did, are they not written in the book of Chronicles of the Kings of Israel? Then Menahem slept with his fathers, and his son Pekahiah became king in his place. In the 50th year of Azariah king of Judah, Pekahiah son of Menahem became king over Israel in Samaria, and he reigned 2 years. But he did what was evil in Adonai's eyes. He did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, which he caused Israel to commit. Then Pekah, son of Remaliah, his aide, conspired against him and assassinated him in Samaria, in the castle of the royal palace, along with Argob, Aryeh, and 50 Gileadite men. So he killed him and became king in his place. Now the rest of the acts of Pekahiah and all that he did, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel. In the 52nd year of King Azariah of Judah, Pekah, son of Remaliah, became king over Israel in Samaria, and he reigned 20 years. But he did what was evil in Adonai's eyes. He did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam son of Nebat, which he caused Israel to commit. In the days of Pekah, king of Israel, King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria invaded and captured Iyon, Abel-Beth Makkah, Yanoah, Kadesh, Hazor, Gilead, and Galilee, all the regions of Naphtali, and he deported them to Assyria. Then Hosea, son of Elah, conspired against Pekah, son of Remaliah. He attacked and assassinated him, and then became king in his place in the 20th year of Jotham, son of Uzziah. Now the rest of the acts of Pekah and all that he did, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel. In the 2nd year of Pekah, son of King Remaliah of Israel, Jotham, son of Uzziah, king of Judah, began to reign. He was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jerusha, daughter of Zadok. Now he did what was right in the eyes of Adonai, just as his father Uzziah had done. However, the high places were not taken away, and the people were still sacrificing and burning incense on the high places. It was he who built the upper gates of the house of Adonai. Now the rest of the acts of Jotham and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? In those days Adonai began to send King Rezin of Aram and Pekah son of Remaliah against Judah. Jotham slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of his father David. Then Ahaz his son became king in his place. Chapter 16. In the 17th year of Pekah son of Remaliah, Ahaz son of King Jotham of Judah began to reign. Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. But he did not do what was right in the eyes of Adonai his God, as his father David had done. Instead, he walked in the way of the kings of Israel, and even made his son pass through the fire like the abominations of the nations whom Adonai had dispossessed before Bnei Israel. He offered sacrifices and burned incense on the high places, on the hills and under every leafy tree. Then King Rezin of Aram and Pekah son of King Remaliah of Israel marched against Jerusalem to wage war. They besieged Ahaz, but could not overcome him. At that time King Rezin of Aram recovered Elath for Aram and drove the Jews out of Elath. Then the Edomites came to Elath and settled there to this day. So Ahaz sent messengers to King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria, saying, I am your servant and your son. Come up and deliver me from the hand of the king Aram and from the hand of the king of Israel, who are rising up against me. Ahaz took the silver and gold that was found in the house of Adonai in the treasuries of royal palace, and sent them as a present to the king of Assyria. So the king of Assyria responded to him. The king of Assyria marched up against Damascus and captured it, and deported its inhabitants as captives to Kir, but Rezin to death. Then King Ahaz went to Damascus to meet King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria, and saw the altar that was at Damascus. So King Ahaz sent to Uriah the Kohen the pattern of the altar and its model needed for its construction. Then Uriah the Kohen built an altar according to all that King Ahaz had sent from Damascus, and Uriah the Kohen finished it by the time King Ahaz returned from Damascus. When the king came back from Damascus and saw the altar, the king approached the altar, went up to it. Then he burned his burnt offering and his grain offering, poured his drink offering, and sprinkled the blood of his fellowship offering on the altar. As for the bronze altar that was before Adonai, he moved it from the forefront of the house, from between his altar and the house of Adonai, and put it on the north side of his own altar. Then King Ahaz commanded Uriah the Kohen, saying, Upon the great altar you will burn the morning burnt offerings and the evening grain offerings, the king's burnt offerings and his grain offering. with the burnt offering and all the people of the land and their grain offerings and their drink offering. Also sprinkle on it all the blood of the burnt offering and all the blood of their sacrifices. But the bronze altar will be for me to inquire by. Thus Uriah the Kohen did everything just as King Ahaz commanded. Then King Ahaz cut off the borders of the stands and removed the laver from them. He also took down the sea from the bronze oxen that were under it and put it on a stone pavement, the covered passageway for Shabbat that they had built in the house, as well as the outer entry for the king. He removed from the house of Adonai because of the king of Assyria. Now the rest of the acts of Ahaz, which he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? Then Ahaz slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David. Then his son Hezekiah became king in his place. Chapter 17. In the 12th year of King Ahaz of Judah, Hoshea, son of Elah, became king in Samaria over Israel, and he reigned 9 years. He did what was evil in Adonai's eyes, yet not as the king of Israel who were before him. King Shalmaneser of Assyria marched against him, so Hoshea became his vassal and paid him tribute. But the king of Assyria caught Hoshea conspiring. He had sent messengers to King So of Egypt and had not paid the tribute to the king of Assyria as he had done every year. Therefore the king of Assyria seized him and put him in prison. Then the king of Assyria invaded the entire country, marched up to Samaria, and besieged it for 3 years. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria captured Samaria and deported the Israelites to Assyria. He placed them in Halah and Habor on the Gozan River and in the towns of Medes. Now it was so because the men of Israel had sinned against Adonai their God, who brought them up out of the land of Egypt from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and had feared other gods. Instead, they followed the customs of the nations whom Adonai had dispossessed before Bnei Israel. Yet which of the kings of Israel practiced? Bnei Israel secretly did things against Israel, Adonai, their God, that were not right. They built shrines for themselves in all their settlements, from watchtowers to fortified cities, and they set up pillars and Asherah poles for themselves on every high hill and under every leafy tree. There they burned incense on all the high places, like the nations whom Adonai had driven out before them. So they did wicked things to provoke Adonai. They worshipped idols, about which Adonai has said to them, "You shall not do this thing." Yet Adonai had forewarned Israel and Judah by the hand of every prophet and every seer, saying, "Turn from your evil ways and keep my commandments and my statutes according to all the Torah which I commanded your fathers, and which I sent to you by hand of servants to the prophets." Yet they would not listen, but stiffened their neck like their fathers, who did not trust in Adonai their God. So they rejected his statutes and his covenant that he had made with their fathers, and his testimonies that he testified against them. Instead, they went after futile things and became futile, following the nations that surrounded them, about whom Adonai had charged them not to emulate. So they abandoned all the mitzvot of Adonai their God. So they made for themselves molten images, 2 calves, and made an Asherah pole, and bowed down to all the host of the heavens, and worshipped Baal. And they made their sons and daughters pass through the fire, practiced divination and enchantments, and sold themselves to do evil in Adonai's eyes to provoke him. So Adonai became very angry with Israel and banished them from his presence. There was none left but the tribe of Judah alone. Even Judah did not keep the mitzvot of Adonai their God, but followed the customs of which Israel had practiced. So Adonai spurned all the descendants of Israel and afflicted them and delivered them into the hand of plunderers until he had cast them out of his sight. When he had torn Israel from the house of David, they made Jeroboam son of Nebat king. Then Jeroboam drew Israel away from following Adonai and made them commit a great sin. The men of Israel kept walking in all the sins that Jeroboam committed. They did not turn away from them until Adonai banished Israel from his presence, as he spoke by the hand of all his servants the prophets. So Israel has been exiled from their own land to Assyria to this day. Then the king of Assyria brought people from Babylon, Cuthah, Ava, Hamath, and Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the men of Israel. So they possessed Samaria and settled in its cities. Then the first began dwelling there. They did not fear Adonai. So Adonai sent lions among them, which killed some of them. Then they spoke to the king of Assyria, saying, "The nations that you deported and resettled in the towns of Samaria do not know the requirement of the God of the land. Therefore he sent lions among them, and behold, they are killing them because they don't know the requirements of the God of the land." Then the king of Assyria commanded, saying, "Send there one of the Kohanim, whom you have exiled from there. Let them go and live there and teach them the requirement of the God of the land." So one of the Kohanim that had been deported from Samaria came and lived in Bethel and taught them how they should fear Adonai. However, every nation kept making its own gods and put them in the shrines of the high places that the Samaritans had made, every nation in their cities where they settled. So the people of Babylon made Sukkot, Benoth, the people of Cuth made Nergal, the people of Hamath made Ashima, the Avites made Nibhaz and Tartak, and the Sepharvites burned their children in the fire to Adramelech and Anamelech, the gods of Sepharvaim. So they feared Adonai, while they also appointed for themselves from among themselves priests of the shrines who officiated for them in the shrines of the high places. They continued to fear Adonai, but worship their own gods after the custom of the nations from which they had been deported. Up to this day, they follow their former customs, nor do they fear Adonai or follow the statutes, the ordinances, the Torah of the mitzvot Adonai commanded the children of Jacob, whom he had renamed Israel. With them, Adonai had made a covenant and charged them, saying, "You will not fear other gods, or bow down to them, or serve them, or sacrifice to them, but only Adonai, who brought you up from the land of Egypt with great power and with an outstretched arm. Him you will fear, and to him will you bow down, and to him will you sacrifice." The statutes and the ordinances and the Torah and the mitzvah, which he wrote for you, you will take care to do all the time. You are not to fear other gods. The covenant that I have made with you, you will not forget, nor will you fear the other gods, but Adonai your God will you fear. Then he will deliver you from the hand of all your enemies. Yet they did not listen, but they continued their former practices. So while these nations feared Adonai, they also worshiped their idols. Their children and their grandchildren do as their fathers did to this day.